The coming of Finn. It was the eve of Samhain, or the day before Halloween. The King of Ireland, Con the Hundred Fighter, sat at supper in the great hall of his palace at Tara. All his chiefs and mighty men were with him. On his right-hand side was his only son, Art the Solitary, so called because he had no brothers. The sons of Morna, who kept the boy Finn out of his rights, and who were at that time trying to kill him if they could, were there too. Their chief, Gall MacMorna, sat with them, a huge and strong warrior, and captain of all the Fianna, ever since the battle in which Finn's father had been killed. A great long table was spread for supper. 1,000 wax candles shed their light through the chamber, and caused the vessels of gold, silver, and bronze to shine. Even though it was a great feast, none of the warriors seemed to care about eating or drinking. Every face was sad, and there was little conversation, and no music. Out of the eerie quiet came a low sound like thunder, and the earth seemed to tremble after that. They heard a footfall, like the slow, deliberate tread of a giant. These footfalls sent a chill into every heart, and every face, though gloomy before, was now pale. The king leaned past his son Art the Solitary, and said to a certain druid who sat beside Art, "Is this the son of Midna come before his time?" "It is not," said the druid, "but it is the man who is to conquer Midna. A man is coming to Tara this night, whose glory, all other glory, shall wax dim." Shortly after that was heard raised voices of the doorkeepers outside the great hall, as if trying to repel from the hall someone who wished to enter. Then a slight scuffle, and after that a strange figure entered the room. He was dressed in the skins of wild beasts, and wore over his broad shoulders a huge thick cloak of wild boar skins, fastened to his chest with a white tusk of the same animal. He wore a shield and 2 spears. Though of huge stature, his face was that of a smooth-skinned boy. His hair was like refined gold. A light seemed to go out from him. It was Finn. He stood at the doorway and boomed out in a godlike voice, "Con the Hundred Fighter, son of Felme, O King of Kings of Erin, a wronged and disinherited youth stands before you, possessing nowhere, a wanderer and an outlaw, a hunter of the wilderness and mountains of Erin. I claim hospitality of you on the eve of this great festival of Samhain." "You are welcome, whoever you are," answered the king, "and twice as welcome because you are unfortunate. I think such is your face and form that you are the son of some mighty king on whom disaster has fallen undeserved. The high kings of Erin grant you speedy restoration and vengeance for your many wrongs. Please sit here, noble youth, between me and my only son, Art." An attendant took the youth's weapons and hung them on the wall with the rest, and Finn sat down between the king and his only son. Fine food was put before him, which he ate, and old ale, which he drank. From the moment he entered the room, no one thought of anything but him. When Finn had finished eating and drinking, he said to the king, "Con the Hundred Fighter, though it is not right for a guest to observe that something may be wrong, or not as it should be, in this the great hall of Tara, yet the sorrow of a kindly host is a sorrow too to his guests, and sometimes the man of the house is unaware that he could find help and assistance in the stranger before him. There is sorrow in this room of festivity. If anyone who is dear to you or your people happens to be dead, I can do nothing. But I say this, and it is not a vain boast, that even if a person is at the point of death, I can restore him to life and health, for there are marvellous powers of life-giving in my 2 hands." Con the Hundred Fighter answered, "Our grief is not as you imagine, and what I am about to tell you is known throughout Erin. There is a mighty enchanter who lives in the haunted mountains of Slieve Gullion in the north. His name is Alan, son of Midna. A mighty beast he is. Once every year at this season, it is his pleasure to burn Tara. Descending out of his wizard haunts, he stands over the city and shoots balls of fire out of his mouth and consumes it. Then he goes away mocking and triumphant. This annual building of Tara, only to be annually burnt, is a shame to me as a king. And since this enchanter declared war against me, a dark cloud hang over me and Tara." "But," said Finn, "how is it that your mighty warriors, of which you have many, do not repel or kill him. Alas, said Con, all our might and bravery is nothing against this beast. Our best warriors surround Tara on all sides, keeping guard when the fatal night comes. Then the son of Midna plays on his druidic instrument of music, on his magic harp, and as the fairy music falls on our ears, our eyelids grow heavy. Soon all fall upon the grass in a deep sleep, only for Alan, the son of Midna, to come and shoot his balls of fire against the city and utterly destroy it. 9 years he has borne Tara in this manner, and this is the tent. At midnight tonight he will come and do the same. All the women and children have been sent out of Tara this day. We are only men of war here, waiting for our time. The noble youth that stood before Con bowed his head. What would be my reward if I killed the beast and saved Tara? Your inheritance, answered the king, no matter if it is great or small, or whether it lies here in Erin or beyond her shores. For security, I give you my only son Art, and Gall MacMorna, the chief of the Fianna. Gall and the captains consented to the arrangement, though reluctantly, for they were unsure of just how great this youth could be against such a powerful enemy. After that they all arose and armed themselves. They assembled outside the palace, and together they put a ring around Tara of horse and on foot. Then Con the 100 Fighter spoke to his men, and swore to watch over them. Gall MacMorna did the same, addressing the fiends. After that they filled their ears with wax and wool, and kept a stern and fierce watch. Many thrust the points of their swords into their flesh. Now Finn was alone in the great hall. He washed his hands and face with pure water. He took from the bag which was around his waist instruments of wisdom and magic. These belonged to his father. Then suddenly a man stood before Finn, holding a spear in one hand and a blue shield in the other. There were 20 nails of gold of Arabia in the spear. The nails glittered like stars and twinkled with live light, as stars do on a frosty night. The blade of it quivered like a tongue of white fire. Halfway up the blade to the point, the spear was alive. There were voices in it too, and the war cries of the enchanted people of Erin, whom they called the Two-Headed Anan. The sword was a wonder too. It had countless numbers of stars twinkling in blue light, and clouds seemed to pass through it. The man gave these things to Finn, and when he had instructed him in their use, he vanished. Then Finn arose and armed himself and went outside. There was a ring of flames around Tara. All the fiends and the warriors of Con had torches in their hands. The whole of Tara seemed illuminated, even the dark waters of the River Boyne which flowed past Tara on the north. And there, standing silent and alert, were the warriors of Erin, with spears and shield, keeping watch against the son of Midna. Finn stood with his back to the palace. He grasped the magic spear strongly in one hand, and the mighty shield in the other he pulled tightly to his chest. As midnight drew close, he heard far away in the north of the mountains of Slievegullin a fairy tune played soft and slow, and music came from a flute, and at the same time the roar of Con the 100 Fighter, and the voice of Gall like thunder, and the responsive shouts of the captains. Then all the warriors shouted all together, and clashed their swords against their shields in fierce defiance. The shout was heard all over the country, echoing from sea to sea, and the hollow buildings of Tara reverberated to the uproar. Yet through it all could be heard the low, slow, enchanting music that came from Slievegullin. Finn put the point of the spear to his forehead. It burned like fire, yet his heart was still strong and did not fail. The music of the enchanter began to steal into the souls of the warriors. Then their roar began to fade away, as if in a dream. Though the captains were still shouting, and 2/3 of the warriors fell to the ground. And now followed the music, came the music of a harp. Finn pressed the spearhead closer to his forehead, and saw every torch fall, except one which wavered, as if held by a drunken man. Beneath it a giant figure reeled and tottered, and tried in vain to keep his feet. It was Con the 100 Fighter. As he fell, there was a roar of many waters. It was the sea mourning the High King's fall. Finn passed through the fallen men, and stood alone on the dark hill. could hear the feet of the enchanter splashing through the river Boyne, and saw his huge form ascending the slopes of Tara. When the beast saw that all was silent and dark there, he laughed, and from his mouth blew a red fireball, a chalk mid-curcha, which he was accustomed to set fire to first. Finn was ready, and leaped high into the air, and the fireball was extinguished by the mighty shield. The beast blew a second and a third, but Finn quenched them both. The beast saw that his magic over Tara was at an end, and that his magic arts had been defeated. He glared down and saw Finn's face, and recognised his conqueror. He turned to flee, and though slow was his coming, swifter than the wind was his going, that he might return to the protection of his enchanted mountains before the fair-faced youth clad in skins could overtake him. Finn let fall his shield as he had been instructed, and pursued him, but in vain. Then Finn was aware that the magic spear struggled in his hand, like a hound on a leash. "Go then, if you must," he said, and paused. Cast the spear from him. It passed through the night hissing and screaming. There was a track of blue fire behind it. Finn followed, and at the foot of Slieve Gullion he found the body of the son of Midna. He was quite dead, with the blood pouring from a wound in the middle of his back, but the spear was gone. Finn drew his sword and cut off the enchanter's head, and returned with it to Tara. When he returned to the spot where he dropped the shield, it too was gone, but smoke and blue flames came from a deep hole in the ground. Finn, bearing the head of the beast, passed through the sleeping warriors. He went inside the great hall, and spiked the head on his own spear, then drove the spear end into the ground at Con's end of the great hall. The sickness and faintness came over Finn, also a great horror and fever and despair came over him, so that he was about to give himself up for utterly lost. Recalling one of his marvellous gifts, Finn poured pure water from a silver vessel. He made a cup with his two hands, and lifted it to his mouth and drank. The blood began to circulate in his veins, and strength returned to his limbs. The cheerful colour of rosy health came back into his cheeks. Having rested himself sufficiently, he went outside and shouted at the sleeping warriors. He called the captains by their names, beginning with Con. They awoke and rose up, though dazed and sleepy. They were amazed to find Tara was still standing. When the captains came together, Finn said, "I have slain Allen, son of Midna." "Where is his head?" they asked, not because they disbelieved him, but because the heads of men slain in battle were always brought away as trophies. "Come and see," answered Finn. Con and Arthur Solitary and Gall MacMorna followed the youth into the great hall, where the spear-long waxen candles were still burning. When they saw the head of the son of Midna impaled at the end of the hall, the head of the man whom they believed to be immortal and not to be ever wounded or conquered, they were filled with great joy, and praised their champion, paying him many compliments. "Who are you?" asked the king. "You are surely the son of some great champion, because heroic deeds like yours are not performed by sons of ordinary and unknown men." Then Finn flung back his cloak of wild boar skins, and holding his father's treasure bag in his hand before them all, cried in a loud voice, "I am Finn, the son of Cúl, the son of Tremor, the son of Basna, whom the sons of Morna have been seeking to destroy from the time that I was born. And here tonight, O King of Kings of Erin, I claim the fulfilment of your promise, and the restoration of my inheritance, which is the leadership of the Fianna." No sooner was it said that Gall MacMorna put his right hand into Finn's, and became his man. Then his brothers and his sons, and the sons of his brothers, did so in succession. After that, so did all the captains of the Fianna. That night Finn was solemnly installed as the leader of the Fianna in Erin, and put in possession of all the woods and forests and waste places, all the hills and mountains, all the streams, rivers, lakes, and islands of Erin, and the harbours and the estuaries, and the dues of the merchants, and all the ships and boats and galleys with their mariners. There was much festivity at Tara, and the sadness was soon forgotten, but not the great deed of young Finn.